Welcome, everybody. It is time for Paul versus Destin. I am your host, Destin Ligari, and my co-host is Paul Tassi. Paul, good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to be back. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, you have a baby. I have a baby, so we haven't done this in a while.
Correct.
So it's a little harder to time these. But today we're going to talk about Diablo Immortal. We've both played a bit of it anyway, and we're going to talk about our impressions of it. We are also going to talk about Destiny and the current Destiny season a little bit. And we're going to talk about the Halo TV show and our reactions to the Master Chief on the silver screen. Is the TV the silver screen? Anyway, we'll do all that right now. All right, Paul. So let's get right into it with Diablo Immortal. Everybody's been talking about this. I started playing it the other day, and I'll just start because you're further than I am. I think you're going to have more of a enlightened perspective, so to speak. I think I hit like level 10, and I'm really liking it. I was really surprised. It does an excellent job of giving you that taste that mobile games often do to get you hooked, right? Before you hit that wall that you often hit with these games. And I know you've written an article about it, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in just a second. But as a novice, as a beginner, I went through the whole intro thing, got the bar to 100%, and then it sends you to the next area. And I'm currently going from the beginner area to whatever the next town or graveyard or wherever I'm going is going to be.
A lot of graveyards, yeah.
Yeah, picked up some side quests along the way. I died at one point, and some player revived me, and I'm playing on PC. I haven't had a chance to try it on mobile, but I logged into my BNet account, and then I'm going to be trying that out next. I like it a lot. It feels like Diablo. I'm using, my magic attacks. It's very easy to pick up and play and get going. And I haven't hit any sort of obstructive wall where I'm underpowered and can't access any content yet. And I'm level 10. It's constantly giving you, bombastic reward screens so you feel like you're getting stronger and getting that cool loot. And man, it really has its hooks in me right now. So Paul, let's step into the future because you're in the 30s. What am I in store for? And what have your impressions been? And then what am I in store for in the future?
Yeah, so I'm 39. I have a barbarian, level 39, not age 30. And I started playing on Wednesday. I've done some pretty consistent sessions. I agree with you. I think it is a very, very well polished mobile game, especially in the genre. My wife is just walking by, I was playing on my iPad, and she's like, "That looks really good for a
Yeah.
mobile game." I'm like, "It does, doesn't it?" Like, it's very well done, and it's interesting you're playing on PC. I have both versions. I've done both. I prefer playing it on mobile. It was designed first for mobile, and I don't know if for me the PC optimization is like all the way there. Like you can play it mouse and keyboard, but for some reason I don't know. It feels better on my iPad. Looks clearer, and I can take it around and play with while holding a baby and things like that, which
Yeah.
I can't do with my mouse and keyboard. Um, so that aspect of it is really good. I think for the first, let's say, 30 levels, it moves along at a really decent clip. You're just kind of playing through the story like you would any Diablo game. You are leveling up constantly. You are getting lots of new skills, lots of new loots. Like it is very much like, okay, this is a Diablo game. I get it. You're not running into monetization walls. Like every so often, there's something weird. Like you'll finish a dungeon and you get like a one-time offer for like a dungeon bundle of crap or whatever, but like you can ignore it. Like it's not really a thing. The problem kind of gets when you get to around the mid 30s. So eventually you'll hit a point where your objective just becomes, okay, hit level 35, and you're like, okay, like that's like maybe you're almost the way there. So you have a few things to finish up and you get there, and then you do like a little Zoltan Ghoul quest. And like these sections take, I don't know, that probably took no more than 15, 20 minutes. And then it's like, okay, hit level 40. And I'm like, okay, but now what do I do? Because like you run out of story content because up
Mhm.
until that point, you're just kind of playing through it. You're running a rift or two, you're doing some challenges and stuff, but like it's moving along at a pretty consistent pace. But this is kind of the mobile games slowdown where like they give you this much for free, but like it's not even just that like okay, they want you to start paying now because I don't think there's like an easy skip for the XP stuff. the game just kind of fundamentally changes from you're just progressing through the story to get to the end to reach max level at kind of whatever pace you want to, okay, I have to do some pretty specific things to feed into the biggest source of XP, which is the battle pass. Because every battle pass level you rank up is like a full level almost. And then the little side things you're doing, like dungeons and challenges and bounties, it's a lot less XP. But completing those gives you like battle pass points. So when you flip over the level, but like this is what the game becomes. Like it changes from like you're going through the story mode normally to, okay, here's a checklist of specific tasks. You have 8 bounties a day to do, which are like kill 50 spiders in the forest. And it's just, it becomes a lot more mundane. And it's not really even just like a pay to win thing. It's more of a kind of overall design thing that I think some people are going to hit this wall and be like, okay, I don't really know if I want to be checking back every day to play this to crawl to level 40 and then to 45 and then to like, it totally kind of changes how the game is played after that point, and I'm curious who will kind of make it past that point.
Yeah. I played a significant amount of Raid Shadow Legends, and I think it sort of had the same issues where you hit this wall where you're like, okay, here's where they try and get you to pay. But I spent a lot of time with it, so I don't have the same negative association that most people do with Raid Shadow Legends, because I'm like, well, I got like 100 hours of gameplay out of this mobile game. And do you feel like people are going to feel the same way with Diablo, or are they going to hit that grindy spot and can you get past it? Or is it just like, that's what the rest of the game is like until
you
level
can
60?
if you could tolerate like just the massive slowdown and then kind of the limit in scope of activities you can do, because it's essentially like do your daily bounties, run these 2 kinds of rifts, and then rerun dungeons that you've already done in the story. And then every 5 levels, it seems you're going to unlock a new part of the story, but that's only, again, it's like 20 minutes of gameplay. It's not really anything significant. And I think some people will get through it because Diablo is a fun, addicting game. It's just that when you were playing Diablo 3, like you didn't have to do this. You could just go through the whole story and just grind your way to level 60, and then you hit the quote slowdown of trying to find god roll loot, and that was usually done in rifts or adventure mode or something like that. So that was a different kind of slowdown. Where here they're throwing up these level gates now, and again, like weirdly, this doesn't really seem like a monetization thing. There is a lot of monetization in the game, but almost everything I see is either selling cosmetics, which is whatever, and then these like rift token thing. I forget rift crests, and they sell legendary rift crests. And the point of those is like you slot them into a rift, and then you will guarantee you get yourself a legendary gem at the end of it of some rarity. And legendary gems are very important. You socket them into your armor for crazy effects, and you can upgrade them. And it's the way I would describe it is like it's like buying a loot box, only you then have to play through a dungeon to open the loot box. And that's why it's banned in 2 countries, because this is technically a loot box system. But like that doesn't really solve the XP problem, I don't think. It'll make your character stronger if you get the great legendary gems and stuff and bonus materials, but I don't know if it's like some easy pass to max level, like just for shelling out money. So it's kind of a weird monetization system, to be honest.
So you're like in the 30s, right? Currently?
Yeah. It started to slow maybe around 33, 34. Once you get to 35 and beat the Zoltan Cool thing, then it's like, okay, I spent maybe 1 day getting to like level 25, and then I've spent 3 days going from like level 35 to level 39. And that was like dedicated grinding of like really specific activities. So it's a bit strange.
But there's no way, it seems like there's not really a way to pay to unlock this stuff. You just have to do your daily quests or any of the quests that are available to get that level acceleration. Am I wrong?
I looked through the store to like there's just so much crap in the store. I could be missing something that's like some sort of super thing, but I don't think so. Like everything I most of what I saw was pretty much what I just described to you. But I guess from my perspective, my argument is like, okay, like should I be, do I really want to be investing in another like check-in daily and run 8 bounties game? You know what I mean? Or if I was going to do that, I feel like I should be playing Lost Ark, because I really liked Lost Ark, and Lost Ark is kind of a, a modernized version of Diablo that is, I mean, it's just a much bigger game than Diablo Immortal. It's a massive game, and like so massive it was overwhelming. But I put that game down because I just didn't have time for a game like that alongside my other games, even though I did fundamentally like it. And that was another game where they just throw in like gear score caps and things you have to get past in order to get to the next continent or whatever. But so if I'm gonna pick between the two, I might go back to Lost Ark. It's just that I guess I'm not really looking for a game like that. And when I would play, Diablo 3, I would just kind of be able to maybe grind at my own pace. And here, I'm just not quite sure what I'm doing yet. It's only been a couple days, so maybe I can figure out a rhythm that feels more rewarding than what I'm currently doing. But it does slow way down and gets a little repetitive. I haven't hit a difficulty wall. I haven't like encountered content that's just so hard I can't get past it unless I pay to power up my character. It's just I don't feel like there's a ton to do that feels very rewarding after a certain point.
I may have missed it. What class did you say you're playing?
Barbarian.
Barbarian. I did
And
wizard.
that is one thing you
Yeah.
can do is you can go start another class and then take that class up to like 35 and get all those skills and stuff because that's fun too. I mean, I like experiencing different classes, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I ran a wizard and I'm having a good time with the wizard. I like that I can just knock stuff back and the abilities that I have unlocked with that character so far have been pretty fun. I usually play the barbarian class. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try the wizard for a change and try something different because I like the tanky boys, but magic's cool. So
Barbarian's a little basic for sure.
mhm.
I'll probably do Necromancer if I do another one. So
That's the first one that they start you on. Gameplay wise, besides the grindiness, how do you feel about the toolkit that you have with the barbarian? Is it fun? Does it feel rewarding crushing enemies?
yeah, it does. It's great. I think I played a bunch of the classes in the alpha, so I've done a number of them at this point. I did Monk and Demon Hunter in a number of them, and this is the best part of the game is certainly the adaptation of Diablo kind of formatting and gearing and combat for this platform, which I honestly didn't think they'd be able to pull off. Like I hate touchscreen games for the most part, unless it's like something, like kind of by default made for mobile, like Hearthstone or something. Like I'm not a big mobile games person, much less an action oriented one. Like I cannot play Genshin Impact on mobile. Can't do it. It sucks. I hate it. But I'll play it all day on PC. This is actually like really, really well formatted for mobile. Um, with the way they've designed these moves where I mean you've experienced it on PC, but like you're able to just position these AoE moves or these projectile moves or whatever like very easily, very quickly, and you never feel like you're being screwed up by the mobile controls. It feels very well designed for them, and I think that's what's going to get a lot of people hooked on it.
Yeah. I mean, it feels really good, right? Like it feels like a Diablo game. And I love the pickup playability of it. If anybody watching is actually playing Diablo Immortal, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I think Asmongold, I've been watching a lot of his clips lately, and it sounds like the WoW community is pretty down on it. So I was a little surprised to see that because I'm like, oh, I really like it, but I'm a filthy casual, so
Well, so I think the problem becomes I think at the highest stages of this game, it becomes crazy pay to win
Mm,
because unless you are spending big money to get these like 5-star legendary gems and all this crap, like the upward spending limit on this game is supposed to be just nuts once you get to like the true end game. But I'm not close to there yet. I'm not, I'm barely halfway through max level. So if that's true, that's certainly something I wouldn't want to dive into long term. Like I have enough
yeah.
stupid games I've spent stupid amounts of money on to add this to it. But
Now, you're actually the type of player in a game like Destiny where you'll spend a ton of money, and I'm the type of player where I refuse to spend money in games. I've never spent a cent in Raid Shadow Legends. I never
that's
spent money in
amazing.
Destiny 2. I never spent money in, and I won't spend money in these games. I think the closest thing that I guess you could call me spending money on, or like I'll get the collector's edition of a game, which comes with the season pass for the year. Like
See,
I
I
think
never
it's
I never get collector's editions of anything.
well, like on
Uh,
Steam, you can select like the highest
oh, I thought you meant
version.
like the physical
No,
collector's
no, no,
editions with
no,
all the
no,
stuff in them.
no.
I
Just
see your fancy special edition Xbox back there with the.
Microsoft sent that. Microsoft
Oh,
sent the
okay.
Xbox. So like,
All right. Well, that doesn't count then.
yeah. So I have my personal one, and then I
Yeah.
have the one they sent me that I don't know
Oh
what to
yeah,
do
you do
with.
have two. That's hilarious.
So
Oh wow, you two Xboxes to one PS5. You're such a fanboy.
yeah. Well, anyway, let us know in the comments about how much of a fanboy I am, and also your thoughts about Diablo Immortal. I'm having a good time. Paul's okay with it, but you seem like you might
It's
bail.
good. I mean, try it. It's good.
Let's revisit. Let's revisit when we hit 60. Uh,
God.
the next topic, we're actually going to talk about the new season of Destiny a little bit. I haven't talked to anybody about Destiny, and well, I know you guys have wanted to do Fireteam chat, but I've been pretty I don't know. I just feel less enthusiastic about the game right now. I loved Void season, like that new season of Void. But I come back from my vacation. I'm a week behind, and I played catch up. I caught up like right before the show to the current season. I still haven't done the duality dungeon. I did. I played like a quarter of it, and then I stopped because I'm like, I just want somebody to like carry me through this for the first run, and I'll solo it later. Um, Enjoyed that. I like the mechanic with the bell and switching between the two perspectives and everything. Um, but it's just really not hooking me. Like I am Hunter, which is apparently one of the um, lower tier classes. I've heard Warlock and
No, no. Solar Hunter is the best solar class.
really, because
Yes, it is.
last season everyone's like
Uh-huh.
hunters are the worst for Void, and I'm like they haven't found the tether build yet. And then
That was
everybody,
barely true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then everybody figured out, oh, the tether build is like stupid DPS. And then it was the same thing with the hunters at the beginning of this season. I kept seeing people say, oh, hunters are way underpowered. And then sure enough, a week into it, people actually start experimenting with builds. And now hunters very powerful.
No, no, no. The narrative, the main narrative has been that warlocks are the worst ones for
Okay.
solar.
But you can
However,
float.
you could float a lot, probably too much. Everyone is overreacted to solar. Everyone made snap judgments about solar in the first day of solar being out. We only just got the rest of the fragments
They did
like
the same thing with
yesterday.
Void. They did the exact same thing with Void.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and they overreacted to that. They overreacted to Iron Banner Rift. That's a separate issue.
Well, we'll get to that.
And I think now I still can't say for sure if Solar is as strong as Void. I don't think it is, and yet also I think we need to revisit Void now that we have lost a bunch of seasonal mods. Like it is not super easy to get volatile rounds on everything always now. Like that mod is gone. And suppressing glaive, a number of mods are gone. Um, but there are, I mean, it did not take that long for people to figure out some crazy builds with all three classes. Hunter, if you're not using the throw dynamite thing, it's easily, I think, the most fun skill in the game
The
right
trip
now.
grenade?
The super trip grenade. It's one of the new
Yeah,
aspects,
yeah.
and I have that on my young Ahamkar spine build, and it's a blast. I've never had more fun. Blade Barrage got super buffed. It's really good now for actual DPS. Like a lot of good stuff with that. Titans have lost a few things, like Roaring Flames got nerfed, Sunspots got nerfed, but you create so many Sunspots so many times for so many different reasons. Like I understand why they couldn't necessarily keep them how they were. Their Titan survivability is like off the charts now. It's wild. And Warlock, I don't love the fact that they did two aerial aspects. They're already buffing one of them to more healing as of like yesterday. But I'm using this like Starfire Protocol build, which is this infinite double blowing up fusion grenade spam, and like it's a grenade DPS build that is unlike anything I've ever used with the class, and it's the most fun I've had on Solar Warlock ever. Like, yeah, they lost some other things, but I don't see the complaints here. I just don't really get why everyone is kind of as steamed as they are about this, and I mean it's gotten pretty nasty in terms of like the reactions some
I
people
saw
have
they're
had to
going
it.
after
So
Tocom. Like
he left Twitter. He deleted all his tweets
one of the
because he
nicest people ever.
yeah he was. It's really frustrating. The final straw was he said that Twilight Garrison wasn't coming back and Titans wouldn't get air dodge, and then everyone just like piled on him. And then that I think that was the last straw. But they're doing this huge slate of buffs like next week on Solar because people were complaining about it in the first like 2 days, and like they worked really hard to do that. So I think that's frustrating.
Well,
In terms of the overall,
can we just
yeah,
stay
sorry,
on that for
go,
just a second because
sure.
I actually agree with you, and I feel like players did the exact same thing with Void. when Void came out, they're like, this class is overpowered and this one's underpowered. And then by the end of the season, you got like invincible Titans running around, popping their shield to get the buff over shield. You got hunters with crazy DPS with the tether, which a few YouTubers and had discovered very early on. People thought bombardiers would be the go-to. That was an interesting build, but actually the Orpheus rig tether build was so fun. I loved using Void with Funnel Web. You know, you get that Funnel Web God roll last season. This season, I haven't figured out the magic of the Hunter build, like the way that it was just the volatile rounds with Void were just so fun. I don't think that they'll ever be able to bring back something that was that fun for me because I just love making everything explode all at once. I just love the rewarding aspect of it. Powering up solar for me feels like something that I've already experienced because there was a time in the game where like, you know, shards of Galanor were super stupid overpowered for hunters. And I played that and where Golden Gun DPS was the king. So it's fun, but it's not as good as Void in my opinion. Story. Were you about to go to story? Is that where you're going next?
Stories and activities.
Yeah.
And I guess loot, but
so gameplay wise, it's doing this thing. I took some notes here. It's doing this annoying thing where yet again, you're being forced to use like trace rifles and auto rifles. And I'm getting very fatigued by quests that tie you into weapons that you don't want to use. Look, I like using SMGs and I like using Wither Horde and other stuff. And when you force me to change weapons merely because of the fact that there is a quest tied to using those weapons, I'm really, really annoyed by that. And it was
talking
really
about champions or like a
it,
quest.
it was tied to unlocking the stuff on this season's thing where you have to unlock all the things.
Oh, okay.
The thing they do every season. So you can get the upgrades.
Squares. Upgrade the squares.
Upgrade the squares, right? So I'm very fatigued by that system. And gameplay wise, though, I know I'm going to figure out the dance with solar and I'll probably be all in. But right now, I'm pretty tuned out, even on the story elements with Crow, where he's trying to separate this spirit that's with him. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Paul.
Okay, so story stuff I'm liking so far. Crow story is kind of quote over. Like there's 2 missions with Crow, the first 2 of the week, and then by the end he's separated out his ghost. Yep. So now we're going to move on to Keitel and well, I think next week is going to be Zavala and his wife. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
and then Keitel and Gaul, I think are the pair. So that should be a little more interesting. The best lore of the season, I think, is in Duality. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is narrated by Callus, and then you find like 12 different lore pieces, and he talks about his relationship with his daughter and like what he hopes to get out of his things with the darkness. There's a lot of good stuff in there. That's probably the best aspect of the story. I do think
I want to chime in there really quick. Apologies again. The dungeons have had excellent storytelling in them. Even what was the haunted one? Or no, there was the one last season where we learned about. Yeah. There was Grass where we're learning about. Was it Grass? What was the one where you had to destroy the tanks and it was set to a timer? Whatever that was.
No, that wasn't a dungeon. That was the mission to get the grenade launcher.
Yeah. So
it was like a special mission. Yeah,
that was fun. There was the haunted derelict thing where you learn more about Callus, all leading up.
Also not a dungeon, but that was a good story too.
Well, all of these. Okay, non-dungeon activities.
Those were secret missions, I guess.
Have been enjoyable, and I feel like they're adapting that to the Duality dungeon. And
right, so that I'd say dungeons themselves have not had that much story, really, and I think this is probably the most story-heavy dungeon we've gotten, so that aspect is really good. The weapons are really good. The new weapons they came up with are really good, like a chill clip grenade launcher and triple aggressive frame, triple linear fusion. Like some
new weapons.
It's the best DPS weapon in the game now.
New weapons like Beloved.
That's the thing. Okay, I'm glad they brought the menagerie weapons back. I think that's fantastic. One of the best weapons this season is Callus Mini Tool with this new perk called Incandescent, which lights everything on fire when you kill enemies. That is I just finished crafting that. I think there is a problem with the seasonal loot chase in that it's once again mashing up against this crafting system where everyone is just driving themselves nuts trying to get these red border weapons. and
That
it's
system.
the whole crafting system was like designed to avoid RNG. But if you really want a weapon, fundamentally, you don't care about any roll you get until you have the 5 frames
Yep.
when rolls no longer matter. So, but you're until then you're still fighting RNG to get these red frames in the first place. And literally, the only way to get the reprise opulence weapons are do this weird key farm on Leviathan to open these like really specific chests, or just spend a ton of resources focusing them in the little helm area,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And it's just a slot machine, and it is can drive you crazy. Like if you're not hitting, and I have 3 of the 4, but I'm very lucky, and most people are still a ways off. But I even in doing that, I have 0 out of 5 dranks. So I've made no progress
Oh, that's the
despite
first one
like
I
dozens
got.
of hours of play to get like a drink. So it's like crafting is like a whole other thing that I think needs a ton of work.
Well, it's like with the
And it,
glaives last season, right? You had to play with a certain character type to get the frame to unlock the exotic glaives, and they all sucked. So I didn't like the activity. So
it was not great.
I'm
Yes.
forced into an activity that I don't want to play to get a thing that I don't want. Just like the raid exotic, like it isn't good. So you have to do the hardest activity in the game to get a bad exotic. And it's the first time where you have these pinnacle activities or just grindy activities that give you a reward that kind of stinks, you know? And talking about the
Well, the
frames.
exotics do. I mean, the dungeon weapons, like
Mhm.
you're not. Well, I don't know if the dungeon. I think the dungeon exotic sword is good. I'm not sure, but in both in VOW and in duality, the real reward is legendary loot. Because I mean, the legendary loot in VOW, a lot of that is really good. So if you're getting crafting patterns on those, that's the other thing. You can craft VOW loot, but you can't craft the new dungeon weapons.
But if it
So
doesn't have that red border, even if it's a god roll, you know what you're going to do with it? Throw it in the garbage. And it's so stupid,
yeah,
you know?
it's a confusing system, but I think crafting's here to stay because
You
they put too
said
much into
bad
it. But
wrong. It is a flawed system that had goals of addressing the vault space issue, right? So you could just craft your god roll and have it.
that was one goal. Yeah, they
And
did give us more
it
vault space, so
yeah,
that
they
was
gave us more
something.
vault space because we have to have 1,000 red border garbage guns.
The one thing they did with crafting now, it is crazy fast to finish red border guns now. It's like 40 kills and you're done. So you can run one lost sector on the moon and clear 3 different red bar guns just from kills alone. Like they did reduce that time. So to their credit, I will applaud them for that.
Well, that's
But
good.
the rest
Sorry,
of crafting, not so good.
sorry to interrupt you. I haven't had anybody talk about Destiny with in a while, so please
Oh no,
continue.
that's fine. I don't know. Like I like the public event activity. It's just that you have to do it so much
Yeah,
because the focusing material only comes from that and only comes from sever missions, the story missions. But that's only after you farmed something from the public event. So you just I've run a stupid amount of that event already, and I barely have any red frames of the actual season of the haunted weapons, the new weapons, and it's just like I don't know how much of that I have in me for the whole the whole season. It does, every week they do rotate the final boss, but besides that, it's fun. It's just you're really running that one thing over and over again. So I don't know if I'm gonna end up crafting all this stuff or just kind of throw in the towel.
yeah. Well, the last thing I did want to talk about was Iron Banner, and
Mm.
that I've played. I'm on like quest step 3, and I have 200 of the points or whatever you need of 300. So I've played enough rounds that I get the gist of what we're going to be doing. And I don't love it. I feel like the action is slowed down with those reset periods where you're sent back to your spawn. And the whole, the thing I really liked about Iron Banner was that you were able to sort of go in, play, the action was constant, you're respawning, you're constantly going into battle. This has like reset points where it's like, all right, everybody back to your corner and we're going to stop the action for a little bit. And I don't really like that in a PvP experience. It's not like Trials. Trials is like really, really intense. It's more it feels annoying, sort of. I've gotten in a few tug of war matches where we have the rift, they have the rift, and we're going back and forth until one of us end up at the rift dunking it, right? Those have been sort of fun. But overall, I don't feel like that this should be tied to Iron Banner. I feel like Iron Banner should be its own thing and Rift should be a different mode potentially. I don't think I'm like acidically hating it, but I'm also, it just doesn't feel, it feels out of place for Iron Banner to me. But the more I play it, the more I'm like, it's okay, but it's not perfect. I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? You like it, I think.
I do like it. It's not perfect. I will agree with the reset in terms of the black screen is very weird and jarring. I thought I disconnected the first time I
Yeah.
saw that. I'm like, oh, my game dropped. I fundamentally agree with the decision to have the separation though, because I remember Destiny 1 Rift and spawn camping like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like it was kind of a mess. And I think this is a better system to set up both teams for at least potentially equal success, and you can like kind of change your approach patterns, change your strategies. And I think the reset is good. I think the long reset, the long respawn timers are good because it encourages people to actually revive each other and kind of move forward as a unit, and whichever team is doing that more effectively is probably going to win. I think all the bugs and stuff people are hitting, that's the really bad part, and that's not something you can really justify. It's just something that has to be fixed. I will agree with you that I don't think Rift Iron Banner is like my favorite thing. I think combining those two things together, like I would rather just be grinding normal Control Iron Banner as usual to get these ranks up and stuff like that. Whereas this is like an experimental mode. It's a lot longer. It's only 3 maps, and you're just like, I just want to do Iron Banner. I just want to grind like I was normally doing for the past few years. I mean, we do know it is going to not be this next season, and they've talked about like experimenting with new modes and stuff in Iron Banner. It does make me wonder when we will ever go back to just normal Control like Iron Banner with the releasing the wolves and stuff like that.
Well,
But
next season is PvP focused, right? That's the season they're
is it?
finally
Is
going.
that
I
is
thought it
I don't know.
was, but
I've been
don't
hearing
quote
that
me.
for a long. I thought this season was PvP focused because
Yeah.
we were doing Iron Banner revamps and we have all this new trial stuff. But
Well, Trials is
I mean
next week.
maybe. Yeah,
So
I know. But trials got. It's very weird because Iron Banner has this big revamp and they introduced 2 old pieces of loot that are not great. And then Trials is not changing, and they have 3 new Trials armor sets and 2 brand new Trials guns that look really good. I don't know. The sync is off, I guess, but I do like Rift a lot more than I guess most people. But I think it is creating really interesting new kind of fun, quirky tactical scenarios that you will just never see in any other mode.
mhm.
And I don't really like cheesy specialty modes like Scorch Cannons and
Oh yeah.
Mayhem and I just whatever. It's fine. Like I get it, but this seems like an actual kind of move forward in the right direction of something like the old Halo days where there was Oddball and
They're
things like
shaking it
that
up.
where it was right exactly. So I think they did a good job there. I think the initial reaction to people were like, you should disable Iron Banner and put it back to Control on day 1 because they hated it so much, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. I almost can't believe the reaction that some people have had to it. I think there's certainly some improvements that could be made. I think the score should be lowered from 5 to 4. I just think it takes a little too long to do a full score game. But again, I don't think these are giant overhauls or things that need.
Well,
So
they changed the bounties. There's not the 4 bounties that you level up anymore, right?
it's just the bounties now are just they add a new
Ranking.
thing every day where it's play 3 games today, play 4 games today, play 5
Which,
games today, and that's how you get your pinnacle.
which is a top Google search term. Do you want to know why, Paul? Because it's
What's
not
the top Google?
explained in the damn menu.
Oh,
Your
I should have written a
daily
guide.
quest. Yeah,
Oh
there's
shoot. Okay.
there's no explanation. So it was do a daily thing. I'm like,
It's called a weekly quest. Yeah,
it's
you'd
called
think
a
it would be something
weekly
you pick up from
quest with a
Saladin.
daily activity. Daily activities are traditionally at a vendor, and you would just pick them up.
I love how that's a top Google search term. I need to.
Because I Googled that, I'm like, I bet you everybody's looking for this, and sure
Where
enough,
are the daily challenges? Yeah,
yeah,
I should have written that.
it's
I
like
missed that
that in
opportunity.
dungeon terms. So yeah, but anyway, overall, I do not love this season as much as the Void season. The Void season was really, really fun. And to come back to a solar season, the solar season has been it has some interesting lore stuff. But for the most part, I I'm so on it, right?
Okay. Okay. Before we move on, I'm gonna give you a hunter build. Do throwing dynamite. Do young Akamkara's spine.
Mm-hmm.
Do the triple knives. Do blade barrage, and then grind all the way to the last row of
Yeah,
perks and the artifact to
that's what
get
I'm.
classy recovery or
Yeah,
classy restoration, where every dodge will give you super wormhusk crown healing,
I
and
believe they actually
it's so fun.
swapped one of the fragments. One of the fragments that just came out does that without having to have it equipped. So you don't. I don't know that you need to do that, but have classy.
Classy is like
That's what makes you
there's this
basically invincible.
there's a fragment that extends the timer of your recovery effects, but it doesn't tie it to your class ability, so it
Okay.
won't make it like yeah. So I just try it.
All right,
It's
I'll
it's
try it out.
crazy.
I'll try it out. But overall, you're loving this season.
No, I wouldn't say I'm loving it. I'm saying I like it. I'd say more than most people seem to. I we'll see where it goes, and I'm a little burnt out with the early grinding aspect of this, but maybe I just gotta chill out and take my time more and unlock more nodes and things and make the grind easier later. But I yeah, I think everyone is just a little bit jumpy in terms of like how things feel within the first like 2 hours of getting something without really dwelling on it and seeing what it can become.
Well, here's part of the reason I'm fatigued, Paul. I do the compilations of movies of the story that happens every season, right? Like it's just a
Mhm.
thing I like to do, and I collect them on the channel. Uh, it's just never going to end. They're always going to like be stringing us along this storyline, and like things are never going to be good for the Guardians and for the Tower. There's always going to be like some big overarching presence, and these seasonal activity, like this storyline with Crow and his sister, like it's gonna just like one little string of it is gonna tie into the overall narrative. They're just giving us story content, but it's just like it's gonna be
Well, what's
so
what's the alternative? The
minute.
alternative is what they used to do, where they had either DLCs that were just these 3 hour contained stories that were not very good, or they did
Mhm.
seasons that were like 100% disconnected from each other, and then they show a character and they disappear for 3 years. Like I much prefer this current system where like, did I think Kaido would be a major part of the story
Yeah,
when they introduced her in season of the whatever it was, like way back when Chosen? Like no, but like she's become a really good character, like kind of a key part of the story. So I think that's one thing they're doing correctly.
yeah.
But I mean, you're right; it's never going to end. But like it's a live game, so
How
I,
how
I don't know
many
what the alternative is to that.
how many seasons did Friends go? Like, what's the longest running sitcom that you would tune in once a week to play?
I mean, that was
That's
what 10 years, and that was one of the most successful shows ever that everyone loved.
but it eventually hits a point where they're just like, okay, the ROI on this has been reduced.
But
Destiny seems
I would
healthier
argue
than
Destiny's
ever.
story is getting better. So like that's the
Mhm.
thing. It's like I don't think the best days of Destiny's story sucked for years.
Yeah.
It was terrible, and now I think we're finally at a point where it's getting interesting. At least I mean to me.
Is it
So
like, but I think the problem I'm having is like they're just going to introduce new problems for the rest of eternity that we play Destiny. And like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, oh, all right. Well, I got to go fix
well, okay.
everything
So
for the
they're gonna end
17th season.
the Light and Dark saga after two more expansions or whatever. So I don't know what that means exactly. I think it's just starting a new trilogy of expansions or whatever. But
Mhm.
I mean, they have an end to this current Traveler versus Pyramids storyline allegedly. So I mean, I guess that is a break point. But what that looks like, I guess we'll find out
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that. I think that's what I'm struggling with the story is like, I don't care anymore because I feel like I've been strung along so much. And I'm like, can we just end it? Because it's season 17 and we're still fighting the darkness or
Live
whatever is
services.
going on. But anyway,
They don't end.
that's sort of my explanation for why I am probably feeling burnt out. Solar season, burnt out. Get it? The final topic, and we don't have to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to talk briefly about the Halo television show.
It's
And
bad. Topic over. Okay.
yeah,
That's all the time we need.
what did I say? It isn't complete trash, but yeah, it was pretty bad. So had sex with the lady who like killed humans, and then
Okay.
like they seem like intertwined. Full spoiler warnings, by the way, if you weren't ready for it. Uh, I'm just going to talk about the positive stuff because I agree that the story was pretty bad. I think that season 2, Cortana will figure out how to bring the actor Chief back. He took his helmet off like the second half of the first episode, and then his helmet was off like too
Never put it on
much.
again.
Yeah. I think the aliens were pretty well done. Like the CGI for most of the aliens looked pretty good, pretty good. And then the action scenes were pretty good. Like the scenes where Chief kind
The
of
one action scene is good. The one with the
in
grunts and the
season
jackals and the warthogs.
at
Like the
the end,
second major one.
at
Not
the
the one
end,
at
or
the end. That the
that
one at
one
the
was
end was not
really
that
good.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
But we got strung along for like, let's see, episode 1, the intro was pretty decent. And then the
It's
second
okay.
half was like, what is happening? Because they just turn on him on a dime on Chief. And then the second episode and third episode and fourth episode and fifth episode were pretty rough. And then there was
What happened to
one,
talking about the positives?
and then like episode 6, I think he got in a fight with Halsey. And I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then
7
there
had
was
the
the Quan Ha
action.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
So it's
Poor
sort
Quan
of,
Ha.
there's like small parts that I have enjoyed, but overall, I would say it's a pretty mediocre television show. It's popcorn at best.
Okay, good Halo things. Cortana. They did a really good job with Cortana. I was
Yeah.
worried about her from the trailer, but Jen Taylor was there. The CGI in Cortana I actually thought was good.
Yep. They changed it.
Whatever it's
They made subtle changes to her model.
I
They
knew they
made her
would
more
after the trailer.
translucent. They made her glowier. And I'm like, you nailed it. I
Yeah,
agree
so
on
that
that.
was good. Kai, the Spartan Kai who gets her own chip removed.
Yeah.
She was like hilarious for some reason. I like in like a really random and weird way, but she was like the most likable character on the show somehow, and I almost like wish she was just the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And that one action scene with the Warthogs was good, and that's it. That's all I can say was good. Everything else was very bad. I don't fundamentally agree with the decision to have Chief remove his helmet and armor for literally 95%. This wasn't like okay, he's gonna show his face to like get Quan Ha to trust him, and we can see the man under the mask, and it was the whole show. They just were like screw it, and it didn't feel like Master Chief. And you can talk about in the books he's walking around without his helmet on all the time, but like the Chief we know, and he is not that guy. He is the guy from all the games who does not take his helmet off. I do not agree with this idea that you cannot have a emotionally relatable character who is in armor and a helmet. We literally just had 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, which is like the most popular show ever,
Yep.
where he's a perfectly relatable character and well acted under his giant silver helmet. That was a wrong decision, but like besides that, the show is just not good.
The writing's
feel
sort
bad
of
for
all over. Yeah.
Yeah, the Quan Ha subplot is like of all the useless subplots I've ever seen in TV is one of the most useless. Yeah, nothing against the actress. I think she did a perfectly fine job, but like they set her up to be like Chief's kind of reluctant companion and then shipped her off to the middle of nowhere for the entire rest of the season to the point where she wasn't even in the last 2 episodes. They didn't even mention her. And so that was very bad. The Chief sex scene, it's not like just about the fact that like Master Chief had sex. Like that is very weird to say and like probably shouldn't have happened in general. But like it wasn't just that; it was an enemy spy that he was holding prisoner in her holding cell, and like that was just a very very weird scenario. Like regardless of like what you think of if Master Chief should be having sex at all, the whole thing just really weirded me out and seems very unnecessary. And I'm pretty sure she gave away the location of Reach to the Covenant after that, and he will lead to the fall of Reach with that. So, the final thing about Cortana operating Chief remotely is like, it's kind of whatever. Everyone was like, I can't believe they killed Master Chief and replaced him with, like, he's clearly not dead. Obviously, he's not dead. It was just kind of a weird thing to do.
She even hints about it. She says the pawn and the king go back in the box after back in the same box. Like she's going to figure it out. That's what she's saying.
Like, obviously.
Obviously,
although it was very
it's
ironic.
on the nose. Yeah.
Ironic that he becomes more like the game chief, where he's finally keeping his helmet on and not talking, where once he's like Cortana mode chief. But lot of weird, like they made so many departures from existing lore and canon, and like if that made the story better, maybe that would have been fine. I think it made it worse in almost every time they did it, so I don't really understand what they were doing there. And then seeing like 343 people every week being like, "Oh, this episode of Halo is so dope," like that is a little unsettling in and of itself. Like I don't know. I have lots of feelings about that too, but
Yeah.
because I didn't like Infinite Story either. So.
Oh, well, I liked Infinite's story for the most part.
No,
I'm a little
no, no,
curious about
no.
where they're going to go with it, with the new
I mean, it was
stuff.
better than the Halo story, like the Halo show story. I'll give it that.
I
But
ended up liking Last Spartan Standing, which was like their mini
oh,
battle royale before the
the thing you're
real
trying to
battle
say is a
royale.
battle royale. That's not a battle royale. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually enjoyed that a lot in the game, but yeah, man, Halo Infinite's not in a good spot.
Nope, it
Yeah.
is not.
That's actually all we had for this week, Paul. So let's get out of here. Where can people find your stuff?
Appletassi on Twitter. You can Google me for my Forbes articles, and I'm back to doing YouTube pretty regularly. So
That's good. Yeah, me too. I'm trying to get back to the video a day thing at least throughout June. We'll see how that goes with sort of E3 next week.
Summer
Lots of stuff
Games
to talk
Fest,
about.
obviously.
Yeah, right. Uh, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much to the. Let's see if this works. No, I think it'll break everything. I'll just say thank you to the members. If you want to become a member, you can click that join button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much to all the members for supporting the channel. We're going to get out of here if I can find the outro button, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.